I've heard countless financial stories over the years, some inspiring, some heartbreaking, and some that just make you face the truth about your own money habits. But Tom's story is one that sticks. Tom started with nothing, no savings, just a steady paycheck and a long list of monthly expenses. Yet, within a year, he built his first $5,000 emergency fund. Not overnight, not magically. Real effort, real mistakes, real learning. When he first told me about his plan, he said it calmly, almost as if it were just another task. I want to build a safety net, and I don't know exactly how. That honesty is where all real change begins. This isn't a fairy tale. This is a story about a normal guy making normal mistakes and learning slowly, just like many of us. Tom wasn't born rich. He grew up in a typical middle-class family where money wasn't abundant, but it also wasn't off limits. He watched his parents save, stretch, and manage bills, but they never taught him how to handle money independently. When Tom landed his first real job after college, he was ecstatic. For the first time, he had money he didn't have to ask anyone for. He finally had freedom, and that's exactly when the trouble began. Within 3 months, he was living paycheck to paycheck. Not because he had huge bills, not because he was irresponsible, but because he spent on things that felt right in the moment. Dinners with friends, new gadgets, coffee every morning, weekend trips, subscriptions he rarely used. Every month ended the same way, with him asking, "Where did all my money go?" Tom wasn't lazy. He wasn't careless. He just hadn't learned the discipline of awareness yet. Tom made mistakes most young professionals make. He didn't track his spending, so he had no idea where his money was disappearing. He equated happiness with spending, thinking buying things would make him feel secure or successful. And he avoided budgeting, believing that writing down every expense would feel restrictive and unnecessary. His months had a pattern. Rent and utilities were paid on time. Groceries were covered. But dinners out happened more often than they should have. Impulse purchases crept in here and there, and those daily coffee trips along with unused subscriptions quietly drained his account. At the end of each month, all these small expenses combined to leave him wondering exactly where his paycheck had gone. The phrase he repeated constantly, "I'll start saving next month," became the silent enemy. Awareness without action, he learned the hard way, does nothing for your future. The turning point didn't come from a financial book or a seminar. It came from reality. One evening, Tom opened his banking app and froze. His balance was far lower than he expected. His rent was covered. His bills were covered, but his cushion, his sense of security, was gone. He felt a wave of anxiety and panic wash over him. The realization hit him hard. He had no safety net, no emergency fund, and he had no idea how to fix it. Tom later told me, "I felt like I was walking on ice, blindfolded, and I had no clue where the cracks were." That night, he made a choice. Not tomorrow, not next week, that night. He decided to take control of his finances. He didn't know the exact steps yet, but he knew he had to start. Tom's first step was deceptively simple, yet it was the hardest. He started tracking every single expense, not with an app at first, not digitally, but with pen and paper. Every coffee, every lunch, every online subscription, even the small $3 snacks he barely noticed, all of it went on the page. The first week was an eye-opener. He discovered how the little things quietly drained his paycheck. That daily coffee habit alone cost him more than he realized. And those subscriptions, barely used, added up faster than he could have imagined. At first it felt tedious, almost frustrating. But by the end of the first month, Tom had clarity. He could see the leaks in his finances for the first time, and that was the key: awareness. He realized to save money, he had to know exactly where it was going. Without that, every attempt to save would be a blind guess. Once he understood his spending habits, Tom made his first major decision. He created a realistic budget, not a complicated spreadsheet that made him feel trapped, but a simple plan. Essentials first, savings second, discretionary spending last. Essentials included rent, utilities, groceries, the unavoidable costs of life. Savings were set to a small, achievable amount, automatically transferred to a separate account. And discretionary spending, dinners, gadgets, treats, was allowed but strictly limited. The first month of budgeting wasn't perfect. He missed a few dinners, skipped impulsive purchases, and sometimes felt frustrated. But slowly, he started to enjoy the control it gave him. Budgeting wasn't restricting him. It was giving him freedom to choose. Every month, seeing that small amount saved gave him confidence. It was proof that change was possible. The first $200 transferred automatically. Each month wasn't life-changing, but it was meaningful. It was the start of a habit, not a one-time effort. Tom knew saving from his paycheck alone wouldn't be enough. He needed to earn more. So he tried several side hustles. Some worked, some didn't. He experimented with freelance writing, ride-sharing, selling old items online, and even weekend tutoring. Each attempt taught him something. Freelance writing paid inconsistently, but it sharpened his discipline. Ride-sharing was exhausting and didn't fit his schedule, but it gave him perspective on opportunity. Selling items online earned small amounts, but it was consistent. Weekend tutoring became a reliable source of extra income over time. The lesson was clear. Consistency beats intensity. Showing up every week, putting in steady effort, mattered far more than an occasional big push. By month 4, the additional income started stacking up, and with it, his savings began growing faster. Tom learned to celebrate small wins. His first $50 from side hustles wasn't exciting to anyone else, but for him, it was proof that he could create additional streams of income without burning out. That realization became a turning point. He was no longer relying solely on his paycheck. Tom realized that building his emergency fund wasn't just about earning more or tracking expenses. It was also about changing habits he hadn't even realized were costing him money. He started small. Daily coffee runs were replaced with brewing at home. Impulse shopping became a 48-hour wait before any purchase. Eating out frequently was reduced to once a week, while meal prepping at home became the new routine. At first, it wasn't easy. Every time he skipped a coffee or resisted an impulse buy, a small voice whispered, "Why bother?" But he ignored it. Slowly, the small choices began to add up. Weeks turned into months, and he noticed that his discretionary spending had dropped significantly without him feeling deprived. The lesson here, Tom realized, was simple but profound. Real change doesn't come from dramatic, overnight decisions. It comes from small, consistent choices. Habits weren't broken in a day, but they could be reshaped one step at a time. 6 months into his journey, Tom reached his first tangible milestone: $500 saved. It wasn't a huge sum, but it was monumental for him. This $500 was proof that his efforts were working. For the first time, he believed that he could actually accomplish what he set out to do. He didn't celebrate with a big dinner or a fancy treat. Instead, he reflected quietly on how far he had come. He understood that this wasn't about instant gratification. It was about building discipline and confidence. Reaching this milestone changed his mindset. Instead of seeing saving as a chore, he started to see it as a path to control. Every dollar saved became a reminder that he could make his money work for him, rather than the other way around. No journey is without setbacks, and Tom faced his share. His laptop screen cracked, costing him $220. A minor health issue led to a $150 bill. And one weekend, he splurged on a trip he quickly regretted, spending $90 more than he intended. These setbacks weren't catastrophic, but they tested his resolve. What Tom did differently than most people is he didn't panic. He didn't dip into his emergency fund, and he didn't quit. Instead, he adjusted. He learned to distinguish between needs and wants, and he discovered that small, temporary sacrifices were far easier to handle than letting setbacks derail an entire year of effort. Each setback became a lesson in resilience. Each mistake was a reminder that building an emergency fund wasn't about perfection. It was about persistence. By month 10, Tom's emergency fund was hovering around $3,800, not an astronomical number, but real, tangible. And yet, it still required effort to reach his goal. Tom doubled down. He stuck to his budget, watched his discretionary spending carefully, and continued his side hustles. Every choice now mattered more than ever. Even small lapses could set him back, so he became mindful of every dollar. He started automating more of his savings so that every paycheck automatically contributed to the fund before he could even consider spending it. It was a simple tweak, but one that reduced temptation and reinforced consistency. Unexpected expenses still appeared. A minor car repair here, a last-minute purchase there. But by now, Tom had learned to adjust without panicking. He had developed a financial resilience that had been completely absent a year earlier. By month 12, with quiet persistence, Tom finally crossed the $5,000 mark. The relief he felt wasn't loud or showy. It was subtle, deeply satisfying, and lasting. He knew this wasn't just a number in his account. It was the security he had fought for, the discipline he had cultivated, and the habits he had transformed. Tom's journey wasn't about flashy achievements or bragging rights. It was about real progress, slow, steady, and human. What made the difference weren't the big gestures, but the accumulation of small, deliberate actions, tracking expenses, cutting unnecessary costs, budgeting, earning extra income, adjusting habits, and weathering setbacks. Each of these steps was small, but combined, they created something meaningful. Here's what we can learn from Tom. Small changes add up. Daily decisions, like skipping a coffee or preparing a meal at home, seem minor until they compound. Awareness is key. You cannot fix what you don't see. Tracking every expense gave Tom insight he didn't have before. Consistency matters more than intensity. It's better to save a little every month than to attempt a huge, unsustainable effort that quickly fails. Setbacks are lessons, not failures. Tom's unexpected expenses didn't derail him. They taught him to adapt. Financial security comes from discipline, not luck. Earning more helps, but controlling what you have matters more. Tom didn't become a millionaire in a year. He didn't start with a privileged background, and he didn't discover a secret formula. What he gained was control, confidence, and resilience, the foundation that allows someone to handle any future challenge. The $5,000 emergency fund is not the story itself. It's the symbol of what disciplined, consistent effort can accomplish. And here's the final thought. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need massive income or a dramatic overhaul. You only need to start to track, to adjust, and to persist. Step by step, decision by decision, month by month. Tom's story is proof. Ordinary people making ordinary choices can create extraordinary security for themselves